Hey Europe, what do you think of the US?
Terror.
They would support more Trump than the other presidents.
It would be divided.
With Trump, it's going to be better. He don't want war.
A lot of the words that Trump is using and a lot of things he's saying can be very dangerous.
Freedom, democracy.
Lack of health care.
Madness.
Many people are very warm, open. It's very diverse.
As I said, openness.
You definitely hear a lot about school shootings.
That the average American is spending all his life on a desk and they might very well die on it just to make a lot of money.
Oh, you're from Canada. Europe is a country. Paris is inside of Italy.
Upside down at the moment.
And used to that was US that was so attractive, but it's not anymore.
And now we think they are a bit of disgrace.
We will see what will happen.
There's a lot happening with the US right now. Now, I'm an American living in Amsterdam, and while I do talk to Europeans here, it's also a bubble here as well. And Europe, it's big. So I decided to talk to people here, but I also decided to travel east to talk to more people and get a different perspective as well. So, hey Europe, what do you think of the US? Where are you from?
I'm from Amsterdam.
What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the US?
Yeah, Trump. Fake news. The US isn't able to grow anymore, and that's why they choose a businessman to solve the problems. This person, Trump, he makes people afraid. But that is his way of acting, and that's how he became a very successful businessman.
So the US is currently slowing in growth, so they're bringing in a business person.
It can't grow any more than it used to be. It used to be the land of dreams 60 years ago. And now it's not the land of dreams, it's sort of terror.
Yeah, so 60 years ago, there was a positive view of the US.
Yeah.
And then now it's changed?
Europe was jealous on the United States. And now we think they are this bit of disgrace, how they treat people, how the community is less important than the individual.
Where are you from?
I'm from Montenegro.
Montenegro. And what is your impression of the US?
So first impression, a big place, maybe that I would like to visit once. The other things, when it comes to politics, I don't like the politics. I mean, every country has its own, but the US one wants to put hands in European politics, in the wars. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. But people that I've met, to be honest, I remember every single US person that I met, they're great. So only thing for now would be politic problem.
A lot of politics.
Yes, regarding what happened in Kosovo, 1999, regarding what's happening with Russia and Ukraine at the moment. So I think that's they made a good marketing against Russia, against Serbia as well. So that's the main problem that affects me as well as a citizen of Montenegro, because we and Serbia used to be one country. So at one point we were also bombed by NATO and US as well. So that's the part that I don't like about US.
And how has your view of the US changed now versus the past?
Well, after the new president came, I mentioned once that when I speak with people from Montenegro, they would say they would support more Trump than the other presidents, just because he's the only president who didn't start the wars, at least in Europe. So I hope it's going to be better than earlier. I'm not sure about the US, how it's going to be, but for Europe, I hope it's going to be better, a bit better than it used to be.
Where are you from?
England.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the US?
If I could say one word, it would be divided. In terms of politics, everyone has an opinion. It doesn't matter whether your opinion's right or wrong or valid or not. No one likes your opinion. And it seems very divided at the moment from the outside. It's not just politically, but in terms of beliefs, in terms of, gender, whatever, it just seems very upside down at the moment. So it is just the two ends of the spectrum for me. It's crazy. There's no other nation that I can say you get that, where it's just like one or the other.
How has your view of the US changed now compared to the past, say, 10, 15, 20 years ago?
10, 15, 20 years ago, I probably wouldn't have even taken an interest in the American election. being completely honest. Now, like it's everywhere. I know pretty much the two parties, the representatives, you know, Kamala Harris and Trump in the last election. I don't go into politics, but it's just there. Like you can't not see it. Whereas before, you could give or take it. If you wanted to take an interest, you could kind of look into it. Whereas now, it is like it's not just politics. It's more of like to me, it's like a game show. It's everywhere. The votes, the numbers, the stats. Like this, you know, this state's winning this state's winning that. It feels more like a game rather than them actually trying to be there for the people of America. It's more like sided, one-sided. If you're not this side, you're an arsehole. You know, pardon the language, but it is like that. You vote for this person, I don't want anything to do with you. That's the kind of vibe I get from the politics in America.
Well, thanks for joining me today. Where are you from?
I am from Greece.
And when you think about the US, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
A country full of contrast. A lot of people have very high salaries, and then you have a lot of people who really suffer from poverty. You have a lot of options in food, but too little healthy options. You have people speaking about freedom of speech, and then if you say the wrong thing or use the wrong word, you're cancelled. And I feel like it's a country that is a lot around money, and then is life and chasing happiness in that way that is only working for some people.
Got it. And right now, there's a lot going on in the US. What are your thoughts on what's happening in the US and around the world?
I think that for the first time, we actually see what has been happening for years behind closed doors. And for the first time, we are exposed in the actual negotiations, but this time on camera. I think this is what has shocked many Europeans or many people, because these kind of deals, like I will buy this country or I want this piece of land, or we never heard before. But I don't believe that that is only happening now. It was always happening in a more diplomatic way.
Is that a good thing that everything is more upfront and center?
I'm not sure about it, because in a way it feels like we don't care about anyone's feelings, or we don't care about being sensible to people's fears or needs. We will get what we want.
What about when you compare the US now versus, say, the past 10 years? How has your perception of the US changed?
What I think has really changed over these 10 years, I felt there was some care for what is happening inside the country. And I feel now the focus has completely changed to outside, to expand, to, rule the world and compete in this sense, like it's a marketplace. And we don't talk about countries and civilization and people and cultures. I feel like 10 years ago there was some effort, and in their campaigns they were talking more about healthcare and the system that will allow people to live a better life. But now it's more about making America great again, but in a way that doesn't have to do with their own systems.
Where are you from?
I'm from Turkey, in Istanbul. I born here.
And when you think of the US, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
U.S. Army. U.S. Army, I think, yeah, in Hollywood.
And how do you view the US right now?
Looks good with Trump, I think. I don't know exactly 100%, but it's gonna be good, I think. I mean, about the peace, world peace will be better, because Trump looks like Trump don't want war, like Obama or like Biden. And that's why it will be better. Maybe we will see.
And how has your view of the US changed now versus the past?
US is changing, yeah. With Trump, it's gonna be better, I think. I guess, I'm not sure, but he don't want war, and he finished war in Afghanistan. American government, American army is not fighting in Iraq or in other other countries. Maybe because of this, we heard about it. Killed many civilian, millions maybe. In Middle East, people don't like American government or Americans. But in Turkey, people they like Americans. They love Americans in Turkey, but they don't like American governments. But with Trump, it's changing. I think people will like American government too, because he say that he want peace. I mean, he want to finish the war. So everything will be good. I hope soon. We will see what will happen.
Where are you from?
Canada,
And when you think of the US, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
lack of health care.
Tell me more.
You guys don't have universal health care. It's private, so a lot of people can't afford medications. I mean, prescriptions alone are expensive in Canada, but I think it's more expensive in the United States. Of course, I'm not a citizen, so I don't quite know everything, but I do hear a lot of things about the increased prices of prescriptions.
And as a Canadian, what other impressions do you have of the US?
I think a lot of people are scared right now because of Trump. Again, I'm not a citizen, so I don't know everything that's happening, but I think a lot of the words that Trump is using and a lot of things he's saying can be very dangerous.
And how has your view of the US changed now compared to, say, the past?
You definitely hear a lot about school shootings. Um, the way they portray it is definitely made me think that there's school shootings in every state all the time. And then now I just don't think it's a very safe place to be.
Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, let me quickly tell you about my Patreon community. I make videos exploring life in the US, the Netherlands, Europe, and beyond. And they do take time, traveling, filming, editing. So if you're interested in supporting me for a coffee a month, you'll get early access, exclusive content, and we can also connect personally as well. Thanks so much. Where are you from?
I'm from Poland.
And what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the US?
Pop, hip hop music, Madonna. Of course, food as pizza, hamburgers, big cars, big highways, Walt Disney, Mickey Mouse, technology, and good movies. And nowadays, well, I see how the United States is so divided, but that happens in many parts of the world. But now it's really, really strong. It's related also with the values. So you see that some people are very attached to some more conservative values. But I see also culture as people that are working very hard. And I think this is what people are dreaming of those great life, big houses, that people can be educated, or that you have those great jobs. A bit like American dream.
Well, tell me more about the American dream in your view.
So I'm from Poland, so used to many Polish people went to United States to have a better life, like many other immigrants in Europe and outside of Europe. And yeah, people were going there to have a better economic life. And I think this is what we saw, American dream, to have a better life. But it's not anymore the case for us. Also because Europe developed a lot, Poland developed a lot. We are in European Union. We don't need to go to United States anymore for the dreams, but you can live really well also here in Europe, I mean, or certain parts of Europe.
So you went to the US in the 90s. I'm curious, how has your view of the US changed now versus the 90s?
Nowadays, I see how world has, or some part of the world, including Europe, is developed a lot. Traveling, technology, the way how we can be educated, that we can speak languages. So the other parts of world becoming are more attractive in that way. And used to that was US that was so attractive, but it's not anymore.
Where are you from?
Sure. I'm from Sarajevo. I was born here, born and raised in Sarajevo.
When you think about the US, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
It's a very like a powerful and a huge country. So let's say like a typical things: freedom, democracy, sometimes jokingly. But it's a culture that is right in your face. You cannot miss it.
Yeah. Well, it's right in your face. So, like, how do you, as a Bosniak, how do you view the US?
we generally see it as a progressive Western culture. You know, something in the West, something that we strive for, even when it's stuff that we see as negative stuff. And it's like, oh, hopefully one day we will be like that. You know, maybe we say that jokingly.
So it's more progressive
Yeah,
compared to
generally, if I had to, describe it in one word, I would say American culture, progressive, West, freedom, democracy, something we strive for.
here. Okay.
Sometimes it goes too far. It feels like it.
The
Progressiveness, yeah.
goes too
Sometimes
far.
it might go too far for our liking, because we tend to be pretty conservative people. But you know, it might be some other issues that here in Bosnia we don't have time to deal with, like the trench issues, the LGBT, the some kind of like conspiracy theories, 5G networks. Generally speaking, sometimes it's too much for us, this type of cultures, because we have our own issues here in Bosnia, political tensions, whatever, poverty, unemployment. So we're like, oh, look at America. It's too much to digest for us.
You mentioned earlier Bosniaks, in your opinion, generally have a positive view on the US. How has your view of the US, your perception of the US, changed now in 2025 versus the past?
You're referring to Trump presidency, or
In general, like just like how you
we
view
have
the US.
there is something there is a quite let's say an issue that is being talked about right now, and that is the USAID, which they pulled back from Bosnia. I do a lot of mountaineering, mountain hiking and stuff, and USAID had a bunch of projects regarding mountain hiking here in Bosnia, which they canceled now. So now this is an issue that is being talked about right here in Bosnia. So we saw USAID as something very cool, something very positive, and now they don't invest anymore into these projects. So now some people might see it as a negative thing, and so on. That's the major thing that has changed in 2025. And I don't want to go too much into politics, that's crazy enough. I don't want to comment too much on it, but I think it has gone quite downhill since 2025.
Where are you from?
I'm actually from India, but yeah, I live in UK, London.
And when you think of the US, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Obviously, food, and compared to many other country, US people are a bit more chatty. That's what I felt. They're ready to start conversation anytime, and they're more friendly compared to UK or compared to Indians generally. Basically, that's what I felt like.
And I'm curious, like, what other impressions do you have about the US?
Certain peoples in India, I mean, like, I'm not me personally. Certain peoples in India, considering US as supporting like a war and everything, these sort of things, basically.
How has your view of the US changed now versus the past, if it's changed at all?
Those times I used to think US is pretty much involving in every matter. Every country is basically their own internal politics and everything, basically. Those times I used to think that way. But nowadays I'm thinking it is very much needed for those countries. And that's why the US presidents in time by time they're involving in to compromise certain issues or the country's diplomatic relationship that goes better through the Europe. I mean, so through the US basically.
Where are you from?
I'm from Venezuela.
Venezuela. And what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the US?
Madness.
Tell me more about the madness.
Division, I would say. So that I find really crazy how the people are very divided. When you meet people from there, they're gonna talk like about racial groups or ideological groups. Maybe the conception of other countries is not very present in the way that they don't perceive other people maybe as equal somehow, or they're not very interested in the culture outside of their country, but also very segregative, different forms of culture inside of their own country. So I think it's a very crazy way to function altogether.
How about like your view of the US now versus the past before? How has it changed?
Maybe when I was a child and growing up, I would see it a bit more like as an utopic place. But now I think the segregation became so big, also in the political spectrum, that people got so divided and so left and right that somehow it became a mess, and that strength and some sort of identity is lost. Some sort of strength is lost in credibility, maybe when it comes to the image this country represents to other countries.
When you think about America, American culture, what are some things that you like?
I really like that it's very easy to connect with people from the US. They're open. They are very approachable. It's easy to make friends and arrange things together and explore and have simple, nice conversation.
What I like about American culture is whenever I can chat and have a conversation with an American, especially about like sports or music, our culture is very close in some sense. Like they really appreciate like British music, especially the Beatles, these kind of bands, and sports. Like we can talk about obviously soccer, the NFL, and all these kind of things. The conversation is always very flowing because there's a lot of similarities there in terms of British and American culture.
They are honest and smiling every time. It's good. Turkish people, we don't see people smiling too much like them because of economic, because of everything. People, they are not sure about the future.
I like the truck stops. Truck stops are really cool because you meet a lot of really cool people. Truckers are really nice. Also, like when you're sleeping in a van, it's pretty safe at a truck stop or even at a Super 7 or a Walmart because there's always trucker guys.
Like if you are very ambitious, then it's kind of a good place to try to hustle and reach some points of doing, for example, in my case, music, great venues, industry, and stuff like this.
I think many people are very warm. They are open, sharing their thoughts. But definitely for me, it's very diverse.
As I said, openness. I mean, very open, and yeah, that's something I appreciate, and which is quite good. Yeah.
They are still pretty amazing movie makers. They have a lot of art museums, which are a really high standard.
What about stereotypes? What are some common stereotypes that you have that you believe to be true?
That the average American is spending all his life on a desk and they might very well die on it just to make a lot of money. I really hope I'm wrong. That again, the average American doesn't have access to quality food and they are having only access to food that is not good quality and therefore there is obesity. And that there is a lack of understanding what is happening outside of their own country.
It's so difficult, but for me, the one thing, like I've noticed with certain Americans, no matter what you say, no matter what your opinion is, their opinion is usually right or what they think is right, and they can't be swayed by what you want to say. So there's only like a one-way argument. This is not all Americans, by the way, but the generalization that I get from it is this is what I want to say and this is what's right, and what you want to say is just like kind of irrelevant a little bit.
I feel always like a sense of entitlement, but not based on knowledge and cultivated wisdom, but mainly entitled. But I don't know, sometimes I have this typical thing that I saw that I would only see in the internet, but listening to people here in the hostel like say like, I don't know if it's a joke, but I've heard like, oh, you're from Canada. Europe is a country. Paris is inside of Italy. Or
You've heard this before?
I've heard it here.
The eating culture is for Dutch, for European standards, quite bad. I would think, and people are overweighted. Most important thing is to consume. And here we try to take care of each other and say, oh, don't consume too much because you get too fat. And if you are too fat, it's dangerous, and it will the community have to pay for your illnesses. So we take care more of each other. That's my opinion.
A bit more louder, like Americans are a bit more louder. And the food wise and the quantity of food is a lot more larger than many other countries basically.
Generally, what we think about the Americans, America, like, you know, obesity, stupidity, or some other issues.
You've met a lot of Americans.
Yes.
Do you find these stereotypes to be true, false?
Definitely not true. You know, I worked as a guide for a few years now, and I don't think I've met a single obese American. Definitely not dumb, especially compared to Bosnians. Definitely not true. Definitely not true. So, like, there's such a, I don't know why, but there's such a huge discrepancy between these stereotypes and what I've seen in person. So I was really surprised.
And have you ever been to the US?
Yes, I've been there for 3 days. I've been to St. Joseph and Kansas City.
And how was that trip like?
Interesting, and what concerned me, there was an area of industry, and it was totally abandoned. And they just started a new area of industry, a modern one, 1 kilometer further down. And they left the buildings to fall down. They didn't even remove them. I was really shocked. And also, what was really strange, there was one road, and there was a crossroad. And right of the crossroad, there were really beautiful houses, but the same wooden houses were on the left. They were neglected. And then they told me that the right side was white and the left side was black. This is really happening. Yeah. We saw the difference in the wealth on the houses. And they explained it has to do with the wealthiness of the white and the colored people.
Have you been to the US?
No,
Any interest in ever going?
no.
And have you been to the US?
I have backpacked the U.S. with my best friend.
During that trip, what were your impressions of the US?
The national parks are gorgeous, and it's so cool to see. It's similar to like how big it is. Canada's also really huge, so you have different topographies, different geography.
Never been, I wish next time.
Where would you like to visit?
New York, I want to see what's going on there.
I've been in United States a few times, so I can say that it's very diverse. Like sometimes when you are in a different state, you have a feeling like you are in a small different country. The accents are different. I remember when I went first time to New York, I was a teenage. I was amazed by, as you said, media, well, colors, shows, people from all over the world. Of course, New York, that's not the only representation of United States, but that was my first impression.
Have you been to the US before?
No, I haven't been.
Any interest?
Yes, I would like to visit at least once.
Yeah. Where would you like to visit?
I would be interested in like these fast food chains or whatever. I want to try KFC, Taco Bell, stuff like that. So wherever I land, as long as there is this type of American food, maybe I would like to see a game, some kind of a sports match. Either it's so let's say Madison Square Garden, or maybe Super Bowl. I'm not into that. We are here more into football, into soccer, but I think Americans like make these things spectacular. So I would like to be part of that atmosphere. So it doesn't really matter a lot where would I land. I could still experience the American culture by trying food, sporting events, maybe cultural events, maybe go to theater or something.
Well, I haven't been. I have a bunch of friends over there working and studying, so I would definitely like to come one day. You never know,
Yeah.
even if I'm scared of planes, but well, I would like to go.
I haven't.
Any interest in visiting?
So this is the thing, like, because the US is so vast, I'd like to visit, but I can't pinpoint where I want to go. I'm not really a big city person, so I also like look at Canada as more of an interesting destination for me. But I know also in the north of US, in Alaska, and there's hiking, there's a lot to see there. It's just so vast that it's difficult for me to pinpoint somewhere to go.
I have not been to the US yet.
Any interest in going?
I would love to go and visit the nature there, but not necessarily the city or ever to live. I never felt like I would like to live there.
Well, life in the US is very different from life in Europe, but I learned a lot talking to hundreds of people over the past month. And here are some of my takeaways. The US seems more divided than ever. This is something that every single person agreed upon. And views of the US, it depends. It depends on the country, the culture, its relationship with the US, its history, and so many more factors. But American culture, it's influenced almost every single part of the world. And when it comes to politics, well, people know to separate politics from its people and the culture. And stereotypes, well, there will always be stereotypes. True or false? Well, you let me know. So, what about you? Where are you from and how do you view the US? Please leave them in the comments below and please be nice and constructive. And I hope you take care.